a movie.
Ooh, okay. Welcome back to a brand new video, and still gotta get that glare out of the way. It's just, I don't know, I can't really do anything about it right now. But today we are going to be talking about Eddington, the newest movie by Ari Aster, going to be given in a review, and I'm going to be honest with you on this one. I could have put this review out maybe because I saw this opening night, I saw it on Thursday. I probably could have put this out on Saturday, maybe Sunday. At the time of recording this, I am recording this on the Tuesday after. I really had to sit with this movie. And mainly because it is trying to do a lot right off the bat. I'm gonna try and keep it a little condensed down so I don't have to, so I'm not gonna spoil really anything from this, because this movie really morphs throughout of what this movie is in terms of its plot and what is like going on. So I'm gonna give you the basis here. Oh, for the most part, this is a dark comedy set during the pretty much the height of the COVID pandemic and the height of the chaos surrounding that. Specifically, it's in May of 2020, where we didn't really know anything yet. All of the tensions around Black Lives Matter was starting to pop up. In this movie, they directly point to the murder of George Floyd, like happening in this. So it is very much, we are already in a town that is basically being rocked by the pandemic, and something happens. Not going to spoil, but something happens. This is a fictional movie, and Eddington's not a real town. Something happens that puts a town that's already over the brink, down plummeting into chaos and just everything. And I do have to admit, I don't always click with Ari Aster. I really do like Midsommar and Hereditary. But I was afraid. I actually rewatched it before I saw Eddington. Did not love it as much as when it came out, but I did still enjoy it for what it was. But that thing is a very messy movie. That is a 3-hour movie. This is not as long. Eddington's about 2.5 hours long, but it is still messy, very messy. But also that comes with the ambition of telling, a COVID movie. We haven't really had a movie that directly talks about COVID. Personally, I like to argue that Asteroid City, the Wes Anderson movie, has to do with the pandemic and how, cooped up we all were at that time. But that's very lining up a theme. There's no mention of a pandemic at all in that movie. So I'm going to say that this is the first movie to directly mention COVID and 2020 and everything that happened. And it is basically putting up a mirror to that, making us look back and go, how insane was, how insane were we, and are we still this insane now? Which, I gotta admit, this is, because of that alone, that's a very unsettling movie, because, I'm a relatively young guy, but I vividly remember what was going on at that time. And yeah, sure, maybe I participated in the social media posting and stuff like that around stuff like that. It's putting up a mirror on both sides. It's not really going to be it's not a very liberal movie. It's not a conservative movie, but it is making fun of pretty much everybody. And I will say, I the theater that I go to usually has a more conservative audience, mainly because we have a lot of Angel Studios movies, fair enough, but and stuff like that. But it was pretty packed when I saw it, and there were a lot of people that were laughing at look at all the left wing people kind of freaking out a little bit and just being funny and leaning in the comedy of that. It is a dark comedy. It is very funny in a lot of sections, but then it very quickly shifts over to starting to make fun of how conservatives were responding to the pandemic and all the different political aspects of that and so many other things that are going on. And the entire theater fell silent for pretty much the rest of the movie. So I do appreciate that in terms of, you know, pretty much not really going at it both sides. But the main focus here, at least in this trailer, and is a good chunk of the movie, follows the sheriff of Eddington, Joe Cross, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who decides that he's going to run for mayor against who the current mayor is running for re-election, Ted Garcia, and he's played by Pedro Pascal. So a good chunk of the movie is their little feud, basically, trying to think of what's going to be good for this town in the middle of a pandemic, basically, where we have no idea what's going to happen, but each of them think they know what they're doing, and they both know what is going on. And I thought that was really interesting and really well done. Both Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal did a very nice job. Funny enough, especially Pedro Pascal. There was a couple twists and turns with his character that really kind of put me on edge with him. And I mean, I'm a liberal guy. I'm very aware of that. But and he's a very liberal mayor. He's like much more of a Democrat than he's the Democrat, and Joaquin Phoenix is the Republican, pretty much. And they are at war for a lot of this, and there are always little twists and turns they have with Pedro's character that like really put me on edge with him. And it was a really, like, much of the movie itself, it was a shockingly unsettling performance by him in a lot of it. And I, as much as I like Pedro as an actor, didn't really see that kind of role coming from him, especially in like a movie like this where he is like playing a more liberal character. And I thought that was a really great choice in terms of character work. But as the movie goes on, I'm not going to spoil it because I guess there are spoilers to this movie. But this movie very much changes up what it's about multiple times throughout. And now it got to the point where I had no idea what this movie was going for. At first, it started off as a satire, of like, middle America, basically. And it was doing a really good job. It was a little bit more absurd because, of the situation, so it could lean more into a couple of the other things that were going on that had to do with it, like, like people not wearing their masks and stuff like that. But again, it changes. It really threw me off the first time, and that's why I waited to do a review, because coming out of it, once we wrap up and we get to pretty much the end of this movie, which feels entirely separated from the beginning of the movie and what this was starting off as, I really hated it. I did not think it was trying to say anything by the end. It was very odd. But looking back on it, thinking more on it, definitely other choices that were made with other characters, and especially the using actors, like, name actors for this. I feel like that was very much weaponized for this movie. And I think it was interesting because both Emma Stone and Austin Butler are in this. Emma Stone plays Joe Cross's character, Joaquin Phoenix's wife in this. And she doesn't really have a lot to do in this one. She's only in a couple scenes. She practically disappears from the movie. Austin Butler plays like this guru guy. At first I thought it was going to be like an Alex Jones type of character, but it's really not. It's more of like a social media influencer guy, almost. Really, not really that. I'm not really doing that justice. But he's more of like a guru. Like, you pay him and he gives talks and he goes around like talking with people that follow him. So basically he's a cult leader. But he's really only in one scene. And I thought that was a very interesting choice to do, because you are always thinking about those two characters pretty much off screen for a lot of the things they could do. There could honestly be an entirely separate movie about those two characters that, frankly, I'd want to see. Which, obviously, I'm not asking, hey, Ari Aster should make this, but man, it was a little bit disappointing to me, because I really wanted to see what was going on with them, and we just got nothing, really. But I will say, it's tough to wrap this up. It's tough to wrap this movie up in something, because The main takeaway that I'm still staying with, even though the more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of warmed up to it, is that it's a very uncomfortable movie. Very much aware that not everybody's going to want to watch a movie about COVID right now. And obviously, we're not too far removed from it. It's only been 5 years, which, well, thinking about that, living through it, it's crazy. But you can make a movie out of this. I'm kind of blown away that it's happening already, but there is so much you can do with this premise. And I think while Eddington is very ambitious, there's a lot of things that do kind of work in here, but this thing is so messy that comes with ambition for making a movie like this, that I feel like this is going to be the kind of movie that we look back on 10, 15 years from now and go, what are they talking about? What's going on here? Like why did people not really like this movie? Although I will say I think it's going to stay this way even if I do eventually give it a rewatch, which I probably will. Maybe I'll buy the Blu-ray. I don't know. But this thing is just an entirely different beast that I knew it was going to be going into it, but just it's tough, man. I mean, it's human nature. I don't want to get a mirror put up to me and shown, "Hey, this is what you were like 5 years ago. How crazy were you?" And I get that's the point of the movie. If anything, not indicative of the quality. Maybe that's not a word. It's not indicative of the quality of the movie when I make this comparison. I'm actually just gonna put down the text now. Take that down. There we go. But I think this movie bewildered me in the same way that I would say that No Country for Old Men bewildered me the first time I saw it. Didn't really know how to wrap my head around it. Same thing with Eddington. And eventually, when I went back to No Country for Old Men, maybe like a few years later, when I was like, my brain was more developed and I've watched a lot more movies, I was able to I was able to put the pieces together on that one a little bit more. And who knows? Maybe that's going to happen with Eddington. No, maybe it won't. Maybe in my mind, it'll just be an ambitious mess. Which, granted, that was Beau was Afraid. I am good with that, and I still really like that movie. But I've seen that a couple times. So I am perfectly fine with settling out on like a B minus for Eddington. There's a lot here that I really enjoyed. I think a lot of the acting is good. From like a filmmaking perspective, from direction, I was really impressed with. Maybe in terms of direction from Ari Aster, this is his best showing yet. But for now, I think I am just gonna I think I'm just gonna leave this in a bottle for now. I do think out of his movies, I would kind of put this at the bottom of his things, but I am down to give this another shot, like once it comes out at home. But really, I'm still just kind of bewildered by it. I'm still putting my thoughts together on it. But I want to leave this video up here because I think it's going to be a nice little like diary entry of where I'm at with this movie, because it's to the point where, I mean, I haven't gotten the chance to rewatch it now. I'm probably going to wait. But it's to the point where I do want to make another video when I watch this again, because it feels like there's stuff here that is gonna come much more in the focus when I see it again, and maybe I'm gonna be able to like wrap my head around it a little bit more, notice a couple other things, because especially what they do with Pedro Pascal's character, I feel like there were hints of that with other characters, of like throwing little twists in there that you wouldn't expect, that maybe I just did not pick up on, and just really made the movie into a whole bunch of nothing by the end. Which, if you're going to make a satire, I feel like you got to have something more clear going into it, because it ended up becoming a movie about nothing by the end. Either that, it became about nothing. I didn't know what it was trying to say, even though I kind of picked it up by the beginning, but as it went on, it went so off the rails in a couple of aspects that I was just kind of bewildered. But yeah, no, I feel like if you're interested in this kind of movie, you should watch it. It's something that'll start a conversation, and I feel like that's gonna be the big like talking point of this movie. That like, hey, how about that Ari Aster, huh? Yeah, okay. I'm gonna keep rambling if I keep on going. So that is gonna be the end of the video.